Welcome to What's Q. So we are again back with our GST learning process on What's Q, and today we are here to look at the overview of GSTR 1. GSTR 1 is basically to file the details of your supply by the registered person on GSTN portal. We all have, most of them I believe have filed their GSTR 3V, but now in August month, after end of the August, so from September there has to be first GSTR 1, then GSTR 2, then there will be a GSTR 3V filing. So this is the first return that is coming up, so that's why we have decided to take it up for the discussion. We are not going to look into the various tools available to fill the data on the GSTR 1 under GSTR 1, but certainly the why it means to be discussing this is to understand that what is the overview, what are the areas that will be covered by GSTR 1, so that you should be aware about what exactly GSTR 1 and who is liable to file, what kind of details are required, and how it can be filed. So different tools available, and in the next video we will look at the tools and how practically it can be done. That we will look into the next video. But now let's take ahead our discussion and see that how GSTR 1 is all about and what is its overview. So first let's understand that GSTR 1 is nothing but it's a monthly statement. The basic purpose of filing this GSTR 1 is to give the details of supply. And then the next question is, who is liable to file this GSTR 1? Then every registered person having the GSTN number with valid details will be able to file this, and mandatory to file it. What all details need to be filed? This details of supply, that is for goods and services. The next detail that is need to file, that whether the next question is there, whether it is mandatory or optional. Then it is mandatory. Why this question is important? Because in many places the dealer has got the GSTN number, but they don't have the business. So even if you don't have business, but if you have the registration in that state, you have to file GSTR 1 with nil return. Now the next thing, that how I can file this. So there are various tools available. You must have heard few of them. Like first you can choose to be online. So you can log into gst.gov.in portal, and there is a window filing of returns. Under that you can go for GSTR 1. Under that you can manually upload each and every invoices, debit note, credit notes, all your supplies. So that can be done online, but that's not practically possible for big business or even medium sized businesses. But for very small businesses, that online also it can be done. Now the next comes, there is a offline tool. And the third one is through third party application. So there are various third party applications to whom we also call through GST Suvidha provider or application Suvidha provider. So they are GSP or ASP, their third portal. Then you don't need to upload the data directly to the GSTN portal, but you will upload data to the server of third party, and they will migrate the data to GSTN portal, as there is a separate registration for that. So these are three ways under which you have to file. So these details, this online details, we will look into a different lecture. This for third party GSP, ASP, it's purely an outsourcing of your activity of filing of GSTR 1, but this is online and offline tool. These are the things, if you decide to file your GSTR 1 man means on your own, then you have to go with this option, either online or offline tool. So offline tool has already been released by the GSTN portal, and as per that portal, so what are details are required in that, so we'll look at those details. So if you look at the details, first details that it asked for is invoice label, means every invoice that you must have heard under GST need to be reported. Invoice label, registered person. So invoice label detail need to be given about all supplies made to registered person. So you can say that if you have any transaction with your GSTN number to another person who is having the GSTN number, so that transaction will be covered here. So, and all the transaction will be at invoice level. You can also call it business to business transaction, or GSTN registered person, or having the unique identification number. Then there is a all interest invoice level details, again invoice level details for interstate supply. So interstate supply is also need to be reported separately, and interstate supply especially for if you have made to any person which value is greater than or equal to 2,50,000 for B2C, means business to customer. If you have sold any goods to any customer who is unregistered, when I say customer, it means it's unregistered, and the value exceeds 2,50,000, then you have to report all your credit note, all your debit notes, and those credit note and debit note will be against those invoices which you have issued earlier. So will be note issued by supplier, that will be reported there in GSTR 1. Then what else you need to report is your export details. Mostly your under export you will have a bill summary, and what if you have paid any duty, if you are claiming drawback, then shipping details need to be mentioned there in export details. Apart from that, now just we need to understand the basically GSTR 1. We are all now looking at what are the different details that are required by offline tools, because offline tools gives the exact format in which the data is required to be uploaded on GSTN portal. So but before that we need to understand that what all the details are required to be filed on this portal. So we are still on we will look into detail with the offline tool, and after export there is a B2C, like business to customer. So if you are making any supply to any unregistered person who is not having the GSTR number, then in that case you will have to file the summary report, like summary, when I say summary of B2C transactions. So when I say B2C transaction summary, it means like under 5% how much you have sold, under 12% how many products you have sold, and if you have any returns also, that will be set off inside it. You don't need to report debit note or credit note raised to your B2C customers if they are not exceeding 2,50,000 separately under summary B2C transactions. So this is apart from those which are having the transaction more than 2,50,000. Next you have to give the summary of advance received. If you have received any advance from your customer, then you have to report that, and you have to pay the tax on that, and also you have to show the adjustment if, like in past, if you have reported any invoice in your GSTR 1 against which you have not received the payment, or you have paid the tax earlier, so you don't want to pay tax this time, so you have to quote that invoice number here in advance receipt details and set off the same in advance receipt column. Then there is a details. Then if there is any amendment in all the columns that we saw, B2B, business to business, business to customer, or summary, if there is any amendment can be either due to some error or due to some negotiation. Amendment in means in B2B transactions, or you can say for transactions for export transactions, for any transactions you can say, or any advanced transactions. If there is any change, any amendment, then you have to report that in your GSTR 1 as an amendment. Then you have to also give the details of nil rated exempt. So in short, you can say your all supplies that you have made will be reported under GSTR 1, including those supplies which are not covered by GSTR means GST regulations. So or you can say non-GST, for example petrol, fuel, or you can say electricity. So even those supply if you have made, then that also will be forming the part of this GSTR 1. Then you have to give the HSN wise data, HSN wise summary, what kind of product, like each and every HSN, how many taxable value is there you have supplied, what is the tax amount. So that details also need to be given. So these are the details that need to be given by the registered person if he is filing the GSTR 1. Now let's summarize our discussion that what all in broad level, what are the details that are required to be filed on GSTR 1. So we will first thing that comes to us in mind is B2B transactions. All B2B transactions that happens between one GSTN to another GSTN, whether it is interstate or intrastate, need to be reported on GST or in GSTR 1. Then we have to report all the transactions with large business to customers. Large payment means payment which is more than 2,50,000 or 2,50,000 or more. So then for the registered person, there is the details of invoice, B2C, B2B, then B2C large I mean to say for more than 2,50,000. Then summary of B2C, not detailed one. Here you have to report detailed one, but here you need to just give summary, just summary. This B2C is small, you can say, so you don't need to give the details. Then you have to give the detail of export, and here you will give the shipping details, etc. Then apart from that, if any amendment is there in your like if you want to make any amendment in previous these things that has been made, so you will report that through amendment. And apart from that, you will also report your nil rated, exempt, and non-GST supplies. So in short, my all purchases, my all sales, including sales which is not liable to tax, need to be given for GSTR 1. Now the question arises in our mind is that are there any person who is not required to file GSTR 1, or it is mandatory for everyone? So let's look at these things, that who is not required to file GSTR 1. So the first person who comes into this picture is that who is not required to file GSTR 1 is a person who is having the composite dealer, or you can say composition scheme. If the person is having the registration under composition scheme, he will not take the registration. Then he will file GSTR 4. And who else is there who need to file GSTR 1 is a non-resident foreign taxpayer. So non-resident foreign taxpayer, and he will file GSTR 5 Apart from that, then if you are providing online information and database retrieval service, then also you don't need to file the GSTR 1, and that case there will be a GSTR 5A. Apart from that, if you are an ISD, it means input service distributor, then you need to file details in GSTR 7. And if you are having an e-commerce registration, and if there is any TCS deduction, then there will be a GSTR 8. So through this all, you don't need to, these are the people who need not file the GSTR 1. Rest all need to file the GSTR. So now let's look at these things in a clear picture. What are the, let's look at the prerequisite of filing for, if you are going ahead for filing GSTR 1, what are the prerequisite for you to go ahead? What are the things that you require? First thing, you should have the registration number. So you have the registration number, you must be having the valid login ID, password, you must be having the DSC, and DSC important is that it should be a PAN linked DSC. So anything which is class 2 which is being capable of using on income tax portal will be useful for this purpose. If mandatory, so DSC is mandatory for the private limited company or limited company or LLP or foreign LLP, so foreign limited liability partnership. Then if you are not required to, or it is not mandatory for you to get the DSC, then there will be a necessary to have the e-sign, and e-sign can be done through mobile linked UID, means unique identification of Aadhaar, that is been issued by Aadhaar, but the mobile should be linked for the authorized person. So this is the prerequisite for you to file your GSTR 1. Apart from that, the data that we discussed previously that need to be filled on GSTR portal. And when I can file this GSTR 1? So normally for July month there was an extension, but normally it will be the 10th of the succeeding month. So if you are today standing in August 17, then in that case September 10th will be the last date for filing your GSTR 1 for the month of August. So by 10th you can file all the details. And total before, if you are filing the details first time, then you will also require the turnover details. So the turnover details of two things: first, last year turnover, and second, turnover for April, May, June of 2017. So April to June means which is pre GST era. So this details must be available with you if you are filing the detail first time, or if you are filing that this is your first GSTR 1. So 2017 up to 2017. After that GST become applicable. So last year turnover and April to June. So these are the mandatory fields that you require to fill if you are filing the GSTR 1. From next year onward, this data will be auto populated, so we don't need to file it manually. Then for goods and services, there is no separate reporting for goods and services, and both can be filed under same. So there is no bifurcation between goods and services on GSTN portal filing. So same invoice number and same invoice series can be used for reporting of GSTR under GSTR 1 for goods as well as services. Then apart from that also, we will look at there are some debit note, credit notes that need to be reported. Then there is a sorry, So now there is let's say debit note will be issued against an invoice in cases where original invoice value is lower than the actual value of goods or supply. Also for post supply price negotiation, for that case, that cases you will upload debit note, and then you will also update credit note. So what are the, when you will file the credit note, when it is issued against invoices which issued at the higher value. When let's say you have received the invoice for the higher value and for which you are not supposed to pay, so also it is credit note is issued in post supply negotiation, and in case of goods return or goods rejected, that case also you will raise the credit note, and details of the same. Anytime and every time you are raising the credit note or debit note, you have to give the reference of original invoice and original invoice date. And next thing, if you are filing the details of credit note and debit note, then month and issued reporting month, it should not be, is there any time limit? We have to understand, it should, for the credit note, it cannot be filed not later than the end of the financial year when the supply was made. So if it is 31st March, then it cannot be raised after the filing, like when the return need to be filed, it is need to be raised before final return is filed for the financial year. Then for debit note and credit note for B2C unregistered means small customers, not more than, other than 2,50,000, that need to be reported separately. Credit note and debit note for small customers less than 2,50,000 need not to be reported separately, and they can adjusted in summary reporting. Then you have to, if you have advances, then you will report it in your GSTR 1 and pay the taxes on that. Export details we are giving, but export are treated at zero rated, and there it's treated as interstate supply, so IGST is charged. So there is two way of this zero rated benefit. You can take it by two way. Either you make the export without IGST and then claim the refund of ITC of goods that you have taken inward for supplying that goods. Then there is other option is to pay the IGST and claim the refund of IGST. This is the two way you can claim for export benefit. And export, as we discussed, it's a zero rated under by default it's a zero rated product. Then you have to give the shipping bill number, and for every export invoice that you upload on GSTR 1, if GSTR at the time of billing, it is not mandatory while declaring the export invoice if not available, provided same is amendment, it can be given, because it is possible that when you are making the filing the GSTR 1, you have made the export but the document number is not available. So you can provide that detail in amendment form in future through GSTR 1, but it will be finally accepted once you give the shipping bill, else it will be rejected at a stage. Then there is an reverse charge mechanism purchase. If you are making any RCM purchases, receipt, you will issue the recipient issue the tax invoice. You have to report it in GSTR 2 and not GSTR 1. Okay, so this is very important. So you can upload the data either on monthly basis or on a weekly basis, depend upon your quantum of business and quantum of transaction. So this is this video was mainly to provide you overview of GSTR 1, what are the details required, how you have to be prepared, what things must be readily available with you. And in next lecture we'll look at the formats what are there and which details need to be filled up in GSTR 1. And if you liked our video and want to be updated with our future videos, please do subscribe for What'sQ future videos. Click on the bell icon and watch our next video for the more information. Thank you.